Top of the morning to you. How you guys doing today?
Good.
Good.
Good. There we go. So, it's crazy. I don't even know if we really know a topic to talk about, but I wake up in the morning and I see those stimulus and those looking kind of nice. I'm like, okay, cool. I forget that we're even there. If you have kids, you're even getting them, a couple hundred here and there. And it's pretty nice, man. But then it also got me thinking, we're gonna have to pay something back in the future. Like, how's this gonna work? How's the plan unfolding? So I was thinking about that, man. I'm like, man, I think a lot of people, they don't even think about that because we're just enjoying what's going on right now. And, how is it going to get paid back later? Could be taxes, could be something else, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be taxes. And so I think maybe talking about some future events, kind of the direction we're heading, and not a doomsday episode, but more so just kind of bringing awareness of some things that we've learned and some just things going on. So what are your thoughts? Because both of you guys are getting those stimulus too, right?
Yep.
So what are your thoughts on that? Because obviously it's probably going to be, let's be honest, taxes are going to go up. How are we going to pay those back? So that's going to be a a good chunk. We already know kind of we've been in the billions. So crazy stuff, man. But what are your thoughts? Either one of you guys.
You got it, Morgan.
So obviously taxes, we'll get into that, but one of the biggest things that I've thought about a lot, and I've sat down with a lot of people and talked to them about this stuff, is back in the day, like there was something called a three-legged stool, right? Three-legged stool of retirement. That was like a retirement strategy. And depending on how old you are, you're either like your parents or your grandparents were the ones that pretty much lived by this rule. And really all it meant was that you're going to give your life, you're going to dedicate your life to a job, to a specific company. You're going to work 30, 40 years there. And then in return, they're going to take care of you for the rest of your life. How are they going to take care of you? They're going to take care of you with something called a pension, right? So for people that don't know what that is, a pension, simply put, is just a certain amount of money that is guaranteed to be given to you for the rest of your life. Guarantee with a little bit of asterisk there, as long as the company or the funds don't go bankrupt, right? So that's the point, is that it doesn't go bankrupt. But as long as it doesn't go bankrupt, then that money is paid out to you for the rest of your life. So you don't have to really worry about too much retirement because that's guaranteed money that's going to be given to you. The other thing is Social Security. That's the second leg of the three-legged stool. Then the last leg is personal savings. But here's the issue, and this is something that's super important when it comes to like what's coming in the future, is really like what pensions. Like pensions don't exist anymore. And like some people might say, well, yeah, like my buddy has a pension, but let me explain. They probably have a pension because they're either at a federal, state, government, county funded job, right? It's funded by the government. It's funded by taxation. It's funded by the funds that they have for that county. It's not a regular private corporation. Private corporations just don't give them anymore because they can't afford them. And so I have a buddy of mine that's a firefighter, and I forget what he has, but there's like pension A, B, C, D, E, F, right? He doesn't have A. Back in the day, it was the pension. Why? Because it was just everybody got the full benefit of the pension, but now they have to tear it down for a letter A, B, C, D, E, F, depending on when you got into to become a firefighter. The reason why is because they can't afford to give you the full benefit anymore. So they got to tear it down so that you can't receive as much of the benefit as letter A gets. And so people don't realize this anymore. But like what pensions? There's really no pensions. Even the ones that are state and government funded, they're still getting tiered down because they can't afford them. Then you think about Social Security. If anyone out there listening to us is watching, don't take our word for it. Look it up. A week ago, it was all over the news that because of what Leighton just said, all these stimulus packages being paid out, I forget the exact number, but it was something crazy, like 32% of America's money, of the history of America, has been printed off in the last year. 32% of the history of America's money. So as long as America has been alive and we've been a nation, 32% of all the money that has ever been printed was printed in the last year. Like, that's insanity, dude. That is crazy. And so with all of that said, what happened? The Treasury of the United States came out and said that the Social Security is looking to go bankrupt in 12 years, that there's not going to be anything left. Why? Because they friggin' used a whole bunch of it when it comes to the stimulus as well. Not only stimulus, there's a lot of things that even before they were talking about that it was going downhill by 2035, but the stimulus just advanced that bankruptcy by about 3 years. And so in 12 years from now, say goodbye to Social Security for all those out there that are, oh, well, I'll just rely on my 2 to 3 grand of Social Security check every month. That's not going to be there. And so a 3-legged stool of retirement turned into 2 legs very, very quickly. There's no pension, no more Social Security. The only thing that's left is personal savings. And I'll end with this, is that the issue is that obviously we know, rhetorical question, are we a spending nation or are we a saving nation? And we all know that we're a dang spending nation. And so most people don't have any savings. Most people could not retire off of their own personal savings. There's no chance for them to retire. So it's always an interesting conversation when I think about this stuff, and the 99% of Americans don't have enough money to retire on their own. And yet people are like, oh, I'm good. I'm good. I got my little 401k. I got 20 grand in my 401k, but I'm good. I got retirement settled. And it just blows my mind because they have no idea what's coming. They have no idea what kind of a world of hurt they're going to be in the future, because they're going to have no more assistance. It's going to be based off of all their efforts, because that's the only thing they can control. That's the only thing that's going to be left. And my question is your 20 measly $1,000 in a 401k going to be enough for you to stop working for 20 to 30 years and to live off that for the rest of your life? And obviously the answer is no. And so people really need to wake up. People really need to start looking into their financial situation, because just talking financial right now, there's a lot of things that are coming down the future, coming down the pipeline, and people are going to be in a world of hurt if they don't realize what's happening. So that's just one thing. There's a lot, but that's just one thing that comes to my mind right off the bat, since Dylan gave me the okay to go first. But I'll let Dylan go next.
You're always dunking it, bro. That's what I'm talking about. So just real quick, I think there's an issue with when it comes to finance. I just think that word is a turnoff for a lot of people, and it makes them address some insecurities, and they just have to deal with problems they don't want to deal with. Everyone wants to procrastinate, put off, whatever they're dealing with, as long as they can. And I think trying to figuring out a way to kind of word it differently. But I think the reason I say that is because I think there's confusion on with any plan, whether it's a 401k or you have an IRA or a Roth, whatever. I think people think that $40,000 is a lot, or 50,000, or they're like, that sounds like a lot of money because it's a big lump sum. You have, tens of thousands in there, right? So it seems like it's a lot, but you're thinking about, how much you spend, like on just a yearly basis, right? It's probably more than that, depending on where you're at or how much, you're used to spending. But I mean, let's hope your salary was kind of close to that, because, well, even that, because even if you're, let's say you make 30,000 a year, that means during retirement, that's only going to last you 1 year if you had 30,000 in your account anyway. So it's a lot of things. It's kind of, I'm just trying to think of different ways to word it for people to kind of like, for it to sink in. Cause sometimes like, dude, I'm fine. I have 50,000, and it sounds like it's a lot. Like, I could get 2 cars with that. It's like, no, but that's not a lot though. And so, I don't know what kind of so for somebody, because I think also pensions, I know a lot of us, like millennials, don't even know what pensions are, because we're not in a position to get them. Like, it's like, you hear a lot of our parents and, uncles or whatever, they're like, yeah, I have my pension, whatever. It's usually, like you said, it's kind of phasing out. And so I think a lot of people don't even know what pensions are. Like, I don't even know what that is. So for those people, how do they get prepared in other ways for retirement, or get prepared financially for, you know, just what's to come?
Dylan, before you mention that, can I just add one thing? Because you said something, and I want to just show a number on my calculator, because most people just still don't understand like what it takes.
Exactly.
Just really quickly. So let's just say you had $700,000 into a retirement plan, and even 700, and you're like, oh heck yeah, dude, I can friggin' retire. Like this is great. Well, let's think about this. The average retirement age is right around 65, right? And just by the way, guys, for those of you that are out there, why does everyone say 65? Why? Because at 65 years old, that used to be the number when you would get your full Social Security benefit. Now it's 67. Why do you think it's 67? Again, because they can't afford it. So they're making you work longer so that you don't get your full benefit until later. But let's just say 65. That's just so you know, that's why everybody used to say, oh, I want to retire at 65. And now all of a sudden I ask people and they're like, well, I guess 65, everyone else is doing it. The reason why the reason why they say 65 is because they want the full benefit of their retirement for their Social Security. But let's just say that they did 65. The average life expectancy in America is about 85 years old. That would mean you'd be retired for 20 years. So if you had $700,000 and you divided it by 20, it would be 35,000. So now my question to you is, do you think you can live off of $35,000 a year? If you think you can, well, then you might have enough if your $700,000 is in an opportunity where you won't get taxed. But if it's in a 401k, you're going to get taxed. So that $700,000 is going to be way less than 700,000. And that's what people don't understand. But even $700,000 in a retirement plan is still only going to get you 2,000 and something bucks a month for 20 straight years.
And also another thing too to add was, let's just use a 401k, because that's the example that we keep using. So it's going to get taxed, of course, and people are, okay, I'm fine with that. Let's just say, what about the fact that it's in the market?
Yeah, exactly. So
You
that
can-
we
you
didn't even
can
touch
gain,
that.
but yeah.
Yep. We didn't even touch that topic. The being in the market, you could still lose when the market crashes. And so that's a jab and a right hook that's going to knock you out for life. And so anyways, I'll stop talking. I'll let Dylan go from what your question was. I just wanted people to see that, because I don't think people realize it's true. We've talked to a lot of people that say, oh, I got $50,000 in my 401k. I'm set. And I'm like, dude, how can, not to be rude, but how can you be that stupid? You know what I'm trying to say? Like, you can't even live a year in California off of $50,000. Like, you're literally on government assistance with $50,000 a year because you don't make enough. But yet all of a sudden we think that we're going to be fine in retirement. It just blows my mind.
It's just, they don't understand.
Exactly.
They don't understand. And that's why I'm trying to find different ways to kind of make it sound cooler and make it sound kind of more understandable, because some of these terms go way over people's head. But anyways, to restate the question, because I know it's been a little bit. I basically was asking for anybody who doesn't know what a pension is, or even just, let's take it, you know, even easier. If they just don't really know what the first step is, like, how do I even get, you know, how do I get ready for retirement? How do I, you know, put myself in a better spot? How do I prepare financially? Like, what am I supposed to do? How, all the stuff you guys are talking about. Okay, what do I do about it? Like, how do I, you know, what's the step? What's the first step?
So, a few things on my mind. You guys want the raw truth?
We want raw, baby.
And this isn't a plug-in either, but you either talk to us or you're not going to get help. Like, that's the truth. That's what we're here for, right? You think about those big firms that, you know, I'm not going to mention their names, but we've all heard of them, right? You go to the banks and you see their names on the wall. Like, if you don't have at least $250,000, they're not even going to give you the time. And so if you think about that, the average salary in America is $56,000 a year. The average American saving 1% to 2% of their income. So they're nowhere near what they need to be at that quarter. right? So if they're not at a quarter, that means all those big firms aren't going to be teaching them, which means every man for themselves, right? Like you got to go to Google, look at stuff, YouTube, look at stuff. Now, granted, there are some people that can look at that stuff and figure it out, but that's like the rare few that even have the time and the mental capacity to figure out what to do. Most people are like working day to day, have families, kids got school, all that stuff. They don't have time to sit there and figure out what they have to put their money in, what the market's doing, all of that. And even still, then what I tell people is you still have to use a company. You're not your own bank. You're not your own financial firm. You're not your own insurance company. So you still got to use someone. So honestly, the first step is finding someone that's willing to help you, no matter how much or how little money you have. Finding a company that's willing to do that. And the second step is ask a ton of questions. You know, you might be the type that's like, oh, I don't care, you know, blah, blah, blah. But no, it's good to know what you're putting your money into. It's good to know who's handling your money and what they're doing with it, and you know, if they're reputable, all that good stuff. Right. So there's a few things you need to take care of. The the issue is most people are going day to day throughout their life, and they're like, oh yeah, like Morgan said, oh, my company's giving me a 401k, I'm good, because it's like that's my retirement, that's what my company gives me, that's what it's there for. But then everyone's going to have a rude awakening when it gets to that time, because they're not going to have enough. Like what Morgan said, think about it this way, just off the top of my head. If the average person, let's say they're getting 5% of their money, and they have $250,000, that's what, I don't know, 12,500 a year or something.
That's exactly it.
Okay, so 12,500. You like that math? It's pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
You know, I did 5% of 100,000 is $5,000. So so 12,500 a year, barely over 1,000 a month. And that's if you want to, like, say you're getting a decent return in retirement and you're not touching your lump sum. 1,000 a month? Are you kidding me? Morgan, how much is, like, let's say property tax and home insurance? Would that even cover it?
It really just depends on where you're living, but like property taxes, it would take about half of that. I know at least in California, you're looking at like 5,000 to 7,000, depending on where you're at.
So there you go. So half that's gone. You still got to eat. You still got utilities. Like, you're looking at way, way more than that. 3, 4, 5 times that, depending on where you live. I really don't care where you live in the United States. 1,000 is not going to cut it. Even if you don't even have a home, even if you're renting, good luck. Right. So with all that said, people, I think it's one of those things where, you know, when your check engine light comes on and people are like, if I don't look at it, if I don't see it, my car will just magically get better. Like, I'm good. So by the original thing that you said, Leighton, with the stimulus and all this stuff, that's the check engine light coming on, and people are like, cool, like, we're good, we just got this coming in, we're chilling. But sooner or later, that engine's going to break, that car is going to stop, and you're going to be facing a problem. And that's what's coming for everyone, but they don't realize it, and they're like, cool, free money, I'm good. And then as the country's in $29 trillion of debt, as the taxes are getting raised, all of a sudden we're like, at the end of the year or the beginning of the year, tax season comes, we're like, wait, what is all this? And you're hit with a fat bill of, oh, you all that back, right? I don't know how they're going to do it, but nothing's free. Nothing's free in this country, especially if it's causing our country to be in an extreme amount of debt. There's something up their sleeve, right? So we got to prepare for that, which we got to save. We got to become competent. We have to honestly answer our phones when someone's calling to help them. Because otherwise we're good, right? We're all set. Like when retirement comes, and for us, retirement is whenever we want to be, not 65, because we're setting our own standards, because we have the knowledge, we have the products, we have everything we need. And so that's the thing. It's like sometimes they say ignorance is a bliss. Not this time. If you're ignorant in this situation, it's going to be a huge problem, because you're going to be 80, 85 plus, and you're still going to be working. Last thing I'll say is so Serena and I, we went to Arizona a few months ago, and there was a lady working at McDonald's in like, I don't know, it was like in the middle of nowhere, right? And she had to have been no younger than 80. Like you could tell she was extremely old, and she was working at the front. She had 2 hearing aids in. She couldn't even hear what you were saying. People were frustrated with her, and I could just see her like flustered. And I was like, how sad. Like there's going to be so many people that are like that in the future if they don't start saving outside of what their job provides them. It's so sad. Like imagine being 80, 85, having to work. And now it doesn't matter that it's McDonald's, but the fact of the matter is you shouldn't be working in your 80s. So that's what's coming in our futures if people don't start buckling up and saving and using outside resources other than what their job provides, because that's not going to be enough. And the last point of that is they need to start becoming disciplined with their money, because too many people are living lifestyle right now, spending their money, blah, 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 not paying themselves first, right? Not saving a certain percent first as if it's a bill, and then, whatever, after all their stuff, then spending their money. So I foresee a huge problem coming, and even bigger than what's going on with the stimulus. I foresee people in the future working till they die, basically, because they're not saving and they are ignorant, thinking they're going to have enough with the puny 100,000, 150, whatever it may be, and it's just not going to work. So buckle up.
And Dylan, that's not even including so many other expenses that we didn't talk about. I as most people have known, if you've seen these podcasts, I used to be an administrator for a skilled nursing facility. Just so people understand, long-term care is so freaking expensive. So expensive. So just so people know, if you paid privately just for room and board, if you wanted to have a private room to yourself, which most people do, they don't want to have a roommate that's screaming all the time. Private room, this was a couple years ago, what was $600 or $650 a night just for room and board. That's not including any type of physical therapy that you would want to do to get stronger. So 650 times 30, that's $19,500 a month. So if you don't have the type of insurance that's going to help you pay, and most of them don't, most of them only have a supplement, so you're still going to have to pay a portion of it. Just imagine you got your $200,000 in your 401k and you think you're good for retirement. Well, What happens if something hits you hard and you got to go into a skilled nursing facility? You got to go to assisted living and you can't live at home anymore. You got to have long-term care. I mean, again, I don't want this to be a doomsday like Leighton was saying, but I just don't think people are purposely trying to stay ignorant to it because they don't want to face the facts and they don't want to come to reality. But the sooner we start thinking about this stuff, the better position you'll be in the future. Because if you don't, it really is going to be a sad situation. So just throwing that out there because most people don't think of long-term care.
That's true.
I think and like before we close out, just adding something like somewhat positive, just telling people like this isn't something to like scare people or whatever. It's just to help people like understand and like start thinking about it, because the sooner the better. And I think we kind of, especially when we're younger, we're just like, oh, I'm fine, I'm young, I'm healthy, I'm this, I'm that. And it's like, okay, you're not thinking about 20 years from now, 30 years from now, just because everything is good right now. For the most part, we're usually the healthiest we're going to be in our life at this age. And so people don't really think about these kinds of things, or like, oh, they might be doing well now financially because they don't have kids, they're not married, the situation is different right now. I think people think about it that way. But anyways, to end it off, is just, it could be small, like just changing your mindset. So as far as like, just use the example I used earlier with the stimulus check, and I go on my phone and I'm checking my account and whatever I got to do, pay bills or whatever, and I check, and in my mind I think I have a certain amount. Let's say I go on my account and I have a couple hundred more from the stimulus. Instead of it's been like, oh snap, like I didn't even know I had that, like, oh, I could spend it, because I didn't plan on that being on my account. I have extra money to spend. It should be, oh cool, I didn't even know that money was there, like let me save it. Like I didn't even, what I'm saying, like it's a small shift, but it goes a long way, a long way, where it's like you don't need anything, you're just looking for something to spend, like, oh, I didn't even know it was there, let's spend it. But it should be the other way, where it's like, I didn't know it was there, let me save it. So i think um I think it's small things like that, starting there, and knowing that that can help you tremendously. And there's a lot. And then like Dylan said, like answering the phone when someone calls to help you, because the help is there. And a lot of people have good hearts, and they're, I know a lot of people are kind of cynical these days, and they're kind of negative with everything going on, but really there's a lot of people with good hearts, and they're trying to help, and they're coming out with open arms, and just trying to give knowledge. And the like we're doing with this podcast, as small as it may be right now, it's really just to spread knowledge. What I'm saying? So anyways, super excited. I'm glad to just be able to, like I said, I always say, just glad to sit down with you guys, and to be able to share this with people, and the people that watch. Hopefully it brings them some good value, because that's really what it's all about. And me personally, I didn't have a background in finance, and so learning all of these things was an eye opener too. And I think it's great that we're doing it at this age versus later on. Some people are like, oh, I wish someone told me this 20 years ago, and some people did know 20 years ago. Like somebody reached out to them back then, and they still didn't do anything. So let's make sure that we're not those people, and anybody watching, let's make sure you're not either. So, anyways, we appreciate all of you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys next Tuesday.
Amen.